My topic is about the contextualization of contemporary Spain. I will talk about the main foundations and associative networks. First, the presence of Islam in Spain. Islam has had a significant presence in Spain in recent decades and has considerable vitality as a religious denomination, thanks to its legal recognition and its social normalization in Spain. As in other European countries, it is not easy to find the articulation of this religion in a culturally Catholic and formally secular and plural society, although Islam has been part of the history of Spain for 8 centuries and is an element that is part of the Spanish identity. In the present work, Contextualizing Islam in Present-Day Spain, I analyze the importance of foundations and associations of Muslims' inspiration and an essential element that has allowed Islam to take root and develop in Spain. This study will be complemented by a later one in which I will analyze the state and regional regulation of the system of associations and foundations, its governing bodies, activities, and grants which they receive, their conflicts, and the relationship they have with the different Muslim schools and with other groups, both foreign and national. The presence of Islam in Europe is a problem for some people and a possibility of others. In any case, it is a challenge which needs to be explored and solved up. The prolonged presence of Islam in Spain for 8 centuries makes this country a case apart from the rest of Europe, with Portugal. Indeed, Islam was present in Al-Andalus from the year 711 until the year 1492. During the Middle Age ages, Jewish, Christians, and Muslims had a personal legal status that was determined by their respective conditions of religious belonging. The Moriscos, former Muslims converts to Catholicism, continued the longa manus of Islam, remaining in Spain until Philip III expelled them in 1611. Since then, the Muslim influence has survived in many areas of daily life, although there were no stricto sensu Muslims in Spain, with the exception of the colonial territories in North Africa. After the decolonization, the Muslim presence was maintained in Ceuta and Melilla. In the mid-20th century, students from Middle Eastern countries emigrated to Spain. The economic well-being on the 1990s led to significant immigration, especially of Moroccans and Moroccans. Muslim immigration has continued to the present time, coming mainly from the Maghreb, Morocco, Sub-Saharan Africa, Senegal and Nigeria, and the Near and Middle East, Pakistan especially. Muslims residing in Spain represent now near 4% of the Spanish population. In addition to the autonomous cities of Ceuta and Melilla, where the Muslim population is equivalent to 50% of the total, the highest numerical concentration of Muslims is in Catalonia, Andalucía, Madrid, and the Valencian community. 43% of Muslims are Spanish by birth or nationalization, while 57% are immigrants. 38% of the latter are Moroccans. The diverse cultures, sensibilities, and nationalities of Muslims and the absence of recognized leadership had made it difficult for public authorities to negotiate with Muslim interlocutors representing Spanish Islam. The conflicts of representation and national quotas are, in short, the outcome of another deeper and more relevant conflict, the struggle between the different ways of understanding Islam prevailing in Spanish territory in order to dominate the rest. Although this is an uncontrollable process, even for social agents, in some way the public authorities can direct and redirect it according to their interests until reaching predictable levels. Islam and the Spanish identity. According to their idiosyncrasy, some people wanted to preserve their institutions, principles, and identity values endogamicamente. And other people conscientiously have preferred to incorporate other institutions, principles, and new values in an exogenous mixing process. In any case, the evolutionary dynamism of the people is an historical constant. The different national contexts and their identity, institutions, principles, and values favor their own particularities in religious matters. Starting from the principle already wrote in Europe of secularism, it is necessary a reasonable accommodation that allows each country to find a tailor-made answer for the questions posed by the integration of new religion in secular and plural societies who have a Christian cultural matrix. I call this process the kaleidoscopic flexilicity of today's Europe. The same common principle, secularism, is present in every country. However, this principle is adapted to particular situations, not because spurious elements are added, but because these same elements are reworked according to the particularities and historical institutions, the principles and values of the present and the will of future convergences. Western Europe has in common of not having had a Muslim presence in the past, with the exception of Spain and Portugal, and having at present a large and growing permanent Muslim population. Anglo-Saxon Islam has found its peaceful raison d'être in the religious model of the Commonwealth nations. However, the countries of Western Europe have not yet found the formula for integrating Islam into their secular project of collaborationism, as in the Mediterranean area, or the separationism neutrality, as in France. The process of visibilization of current Islam must lead to its integration into the plural religious reality of Europe, in a context in which all religious realities are adapted to the secularity and pluralism of states and society. In reflecting of the identity values of nations, it is accepted peacefully that Christianity has been a constituent element of Europe, together with other values, among which those coming from the modern revolutions, particularly those of the French Revolution. The Spanish particularity, to which I referred earlier, supposes that Islam have played an important role in the formation of the Spanish identity, and therefore in Latin America and other former overseas territories. In spite of this, the Muslim element in the identity formation of Spain has been denied in the past and is discussed in the present from religious or national supremacist positions. These positions tend to unite the altar and the throne and identify in political terms the Spanish nation with the Catholic religion. Abdenur Prado affirmed rightly that the recovery of Andalusian memory, the internationalization of the Al-Andalus as part of our identity, constitutes a process of individual and collective healing through which this country can postulate itself as one of the powers of the present, at least in terms of ideas and leadership. To do this, we must stop thinking about our land in terms of opposition between Christianity and Islam. We cannot perpetuate that fracture. In Spain, public policies relate to the management of religious freedom and society itself evolved significantly during the first years of democracy. From the social point of view, it went from a monolithically Catholic society to a secularized one in which different religious confessions are coexisting. From the legal point of view, we have gone from a confessionally Catholic state to a non-denominational one which is tendentially secular. The Constitution of 1978 and the subsequent organic law of religious freedom of 1980 beat on the collaboration between the public powers and the churches, confessions, and religious communities, being able to reach the state's general agreements of cooperation which those confessions registered in the registry of religious entities that would have obtained the recognition of the notorious rottenness. This recognition is considered by scope and number of believers of each religious community. In this context, in 1992, cooperation agreements signed by the state with the Jews, Muslims, and Protestants have allowed these religious groups to attain a legal status that theoretical resembles that the Catholic Church. However, in practical, by not having developed the agreement's potential, the states have made them the poor brothers of the Catholic Church. In addition, this last confession continues to be the paradigm and model of the relation of the state with the other religious confessions. In October 2004, the Council of Ministers created the Pluralism and Coexistence Foundation, who helped the minority religions, and in the last 10 years, the Muslims projects made by different foundations and associations received around 30 million of euros. Now I talk, but I can't explain by the time, about the Muslims Foundation and associations as interlocutors before the public authorities. That's important because the state, the government, has a relationship with Muslims between different foundations who are created to be unified in one only group named Comisión Islámica Española. These groups are divided in different groups during last 20 years, and that was a big problem because they have not a good relationship between them. This is a long history, now I can't to explain, but now at the moment I can tell in December or 9th of 2017, they were at the moment in Spain 47 Muslim federations, 1,562 religious communities, and 21 confessional associations were registered in the National Register into the religious associations. 81% of the Islamic religious communities are linked to this community of Islamic Española, la Comisión Islámica Española, and 20% they are of this group. All those entities that have so far been registered as religious communities have had no place of worships or have a number of adult endorsement of less than 20 people should be removed for the registry and registered as associations for religious purposes. So before this, the last amendment of this register, there were much more Islamic groups in this register, but some of them, they were not a real groups. They were just with small members, or they're created just to be a lobby to have a pressure to the representation of Muslims. So in any case, I pass to the next point, is the new social movement of Muslims origin in Spain. Islam, as such, does not have its own representative bodies, but rather the Islamic associations and communities that are created enjoy such representativeness. The practice that Muslims have been practicing in Spain has been the creation of religious communities of local scope, constituting notarily entities with religious aims of cultural associations or cultural associations that inscribe in some of the registers to the effect. With regard to domestic policy, the legal framework reached by Islam through the cooperation agreement approved by the Law 26, 1992, has allowed Muslim communities to enjoy legal personality and capacity to act and create a framework of initiatives that gives public visibility to Islam, both religiously and culturally. Among the recent Muslim initiatives are the construction of mosques and oratories. Most of the mosques of the Al-Andalus area disappeared or were transformed into Catholic churches. The most appealing case was that of the mosque in Córdoba, which is currently the cathedral of that diocese. UNESCO recognized it as a World Heritage Site in 1984 and of exceptional universal value in 2014, and for years has been involved in different controversies as to the official denomination, to the use of the temple, and ownership of it as a consequence of its first registration, name is Inmatriculación, in a registry by the Diocese of Córdoba. In recent times, mosques have been built almost always with foreign capital in Madrid, in Granada, and in several towns of the Costa del Sol, among other places. The construction of large mosques in Barcelona and Sevilla is pending with different foundations, money, which have been deferred over time due of neighborhood and urban problems. In spite of all this, currently, 30% of Islamic communities lack a mosque or oratory. The Muslims has managed to maintain in the past about 30 historical cemeteries. The majority of Muslims immigrants take out insurance to transfer their coffins to their countries of origin in the event of death. Nevertheless, in recent years, as a result of the cooperation agreement, plots reserved for Muslims in municipal cemeteries have been implemented, and private multi-confessional cemeteries have been created in Madrid and Valencia. But currently, 95% of Islamic communities do not have a cemetery or storehouse. It is common for the most numerous religious communities to have, next to place of worship, an attached cultural center in which they carry out cooperation and co-development activities. In 1992, with the Saudi capital, the Islamic Cultural Center of Madrid, known as the M30 Mosque, was opened. We should also highlight the Islamic Cultural Council of Catalonia and the Islamic Cultural Center of Valencia. Although without too much continuity, the Muslim federations and communities have organized congresses and speech of Islam of a cultural theme that otherwise often organize courses aimed mainly to train religious leaders and imams and future teachers of religions. So because I don't have a lot of time, I will explain just the last point. I was talking about the different association and foundational validity of Spanish Muslims. So now they already increased a lot of them. I explained the first time. I will do exhaustive work about what happened about all these foundations and associations, because some of them, they are helping people, especially Sahrawis people, Palestinian people. Some of them, they are associations for immigrants, and some of them, they are relationship with culture, especially in Catalonia, for example. They have relationship with the Catalan government, and they are not really involved in the process of the independence of Catalonia. Some people won in Catalonia, but they try to, the government, to introduce these groups in this way. And the other is really important about the Arabic influence. So in conclusion, as we have seen, Islam has a significant presence in Spain. Muslim associations and foundations have been the means that allowed Islam to take root in Spain. The Muslim communities have been grouped into foundations which have been the interlocutors with whom the state has reached general and particular agreements. Private foundations, likewise, have allowed to train Muslims, teachers, women, imams, young people. The specific aims of the various Muslim associations have given visibility to the aspirations of Muslims. The main problems, still unresolved, have been those related to representativeness, power and control, and access to public subsidies, economic resources. Muslim leaders must change their mentality by making compatible the aims of their foundations and associations with the public interest, participating in public life from the gratuity and collaboration with the other social agents. Thank you very much.